It's time to strap in and get ready. The Insight NBA team is in the arena, bringing you the ultimate play-by-play on who's hot and who's not to help you win your leagues and dominate your mates. You're now hooping with your hosts, Matty G, Skiddy, and Malley for the Insight NBA show.
Welcome one, welcome all to a Thursday night with the boys. I am at NBA G Wiz. That is at Skiddy, and that is Malley. Boys, how are we?
Going well, G Wizzle. Fantastic Thursday night, which we love to see out here, and it's beautiful to be with Malley and G Wizzle on a great night to be talking about some NBA big boards. A lot of work's gone into this, lads. I don't know about you guys. I have been up for a lot of nights, stressing over it, pressing that send button almost and go, no, I've got to change this. And then, no, I've got to change that. But I think we've finally got something that I'm proud of. How about you, Malley?
Yeah, how Malley, how are you? How proud are you?
I'm proud as a new dad. Getting the product out there, and a bit the same as what Skiddy said. It'll never be 100% perfect. I want to tweak it every hour of every day, but you slap my hand and said that's enough.
I did. Ian Johnson, shout out to you, mate. I hope he's got a hat on the way to him. I know from Insight Fantasy Sports, big IJ, mate. I hope that's arriving in your mailbox today or tomorrow. And shout out to this handsome man as well. We've got G Schnizzle, that would be me, Malley-licious, and King Jake. And Jake is also now going by the name of Sex Machine. And Malley is just plain handsome, as you can see.
I refuse to take the title of Sex Machine while Malley's sitting right there with that gorgeous mustache. I do not have my mo at the moment, so I will happily hand the crown over to him.
How about this? Less of a Sex Machine than Malley. How is that? There you go. Does that make more sense for you now? Thank you very much, guys. We are here to talk. Thank you. We are here to talk about our big draft boards and the NBA, what we've seen, what we've liked. Let's start with the number one question. Malley, what was the hardest thing for you when making your big draft board, putting this together for your top 168 guys?
I guess probably try not to sweat the small stuff. You know, if you'll get a guy within a range of 5, there's no you're worrying yourself too much if you're moving them up or down 2 or 3 positions. When news rolls in and there's incoming information that makes us take those big jumps, that's probably where it's more important. But I've got to let myself do some deep Zen breathing and go, the difference between number 87 and number 92 is not going to be the make or break of somebody's draft. But that's what that's where I'm at the moment with it.
Fair call. What about you, Skiddy? What was the hardest part of putting together your top guys? And again, let's explain it. It's a 9-cat board. We've gone 12 rounds deep, 12 players in each one. But then we fattened it up. 14 rounds, I think we went. So we've really got up there. Oh, look, who is this? Another Sex Machine. We should change his name. Matt Carmody. Pure goodness. G'day, Carmody. Mate, hardest part.
I think Malley's on the board there with so many players that I was just kind of going like, just sweating over the little bits and pieces. I know I had a massive trouble with where I was going to choose guys like that were the third player on a team, like Bradley Beal and Tyrese Maxey. Tyrese Maxey gave me so many headaches, and I just kept going, no, a little bit lower, a little bit lower. And I'm sitting there going, why have I got him this low? What am I doing? But I did the same thing with Booker last year. Not Booker, Beal last year, but not as, I don't think Maxey gets that hindered, but he was probably my biggest headache, I think.
Okay, that's fair enough. Look, there is a new sheriff in town by the way of Paul George there. A lot of touches, loves usage. I actually had a bit of a conniption over Paul George. What do I think of him? I've changed it now. So I had a conniption. I had a conniption because for me it was like, how healthy is Joel Embiid? Yeah. And he looked okay in the Olympics to start off with, and then against Jokic, he just looked phenomenal. And so if he's going to play like that for the season, I'm going to know that we're going to readjust my draft board. And we should say that our draft boards that we've put out, we said we wouldn't do it, but I'm going to break the rules just a little bit. I'm going to, because there's some guys in the chat right now, and I know that Carmody's there and these guys are watching.
Yeah.
I'm actually going to share. I did say I wasn't going to. I'm not going to share all of it. No, because we're not going to give it away. We're not giving it away. We're not giving it away. Here it is here. What we've got here, this is our player reference page that you can see there. This is a player reference page of over 200 players deep. So this is the research we've put into these big
scroll all the way down.
No, these are just players. No. This is what they can get. That's what you can get. But this is where we're taking. We're taking off last year's rankings, how minute their 5-year average played. And what you can see across the bottom there is that we've put these guys for Matrix, Skiddy, Malley, and myself, and then a consensus board. So all these players, they're not in order on the left-hand side there. They're sorted by teams when we get them. This has all their data from the last few years, what they're strong in, what they're not strong in, where you can get them in drafts, and what their ADP average is. It's a massive document, and then it comes to a consensus board. Look, it's fantasy sex, basically. Let's be honest. It's fantastic.
Bloody hell.
Yeah. And just a lot of information that I couldn't find anywhere else. So I think a lot of what we've done too is try and find information that is available, but definitely isn't harvested. There was no one who's brought it together in one place that I could find on a search for myself. So we've really brought information from everywhere, got it to one point, and then making it a one-stop shop. Everything. If it's not on the big draft board, it's not worth knowing when it comes to fantasy basketball.
That's a good point.
Yeah, 100%.
Love that.
Yeah, 100%. And what we're going to do, we'll kick it off this. We did say we would share something of it tonight and give people a bit of a taste test. No, but that was the player consensus board. Here is our top 10. This is our consensus top 10. And this is how you can see the different opinions of people for making or breaking your draft. And this is what we want to break down today. So this is the interesting thing. I've only got Jokic as 1. 2 blokes have Wemby as at 1. 2 have him at 3, including myself. This was before the Olympics. That might be bumped. We've got Shea, we've got Luka, AD, Halliburton, Joel, Donovan Mitchell, Jason Tatum, and Giannis. Malley, I'll send it over to you first and foremost. What is the biggest standouts there when you see this?
I guess just the movement, probably besides Victor Wembanyama hopping into, the top 3, because I don't think, unless you're a league that's not very serious about the way that you play the game, that you're not going to have him first, second, or third. But besides that, I guess there's a lot of familiar faces in there, a lot of guys that either did spectacularly last year or, like Halliburton, had half a great season, then kind of fell apart due to injury halfway through. But obviously, with the 4 of us, we have trust that he's in that position. I like, too, that he's one of the guys that we're all within 1. We're all 6s and 7s there, which makes us sound like a bunch of lunatics. But yes, we're all 6s and 7s there. So we're fairly well in agreement with someone like that. So I was actually really impressed because you held the data back from us for a while there, the consensus data. And just looking through those players, I think we had something like 15 guys in the end that we were only 1 or 2 off from each other. And that was really, I guess, helpful when it comes to looking at the data and going, well, we must see guys in similar ways. There's obviously some guys that we're way off for from each other, but I'm looking forward to having those battles with you guys soon. I want to hear why you're wrong and I'm right.
Malley, Skiddy, what is the one that stands out for you the most, mate? What is the one that stands out for you the most?
Yeah, I want to touch on what Malley was saying with Tyrese Halliburton. I love that one as well, just because he was the main assist guy last year, and we know that the other main assist guy is Trae Young, but Trae Young obviously hurts you a shitload in field goal percentage, while Hallie doesn't. I like the fact that we have, we can have different of opinions, and we got different top 10s and even top 12s as well. I'm surprised that I was the one that had Donovan Mitchell the highest, but I think it's just because
that's your team. That's your home team.
I'm aware, but I'm a realist. The reason why Donovan was so high, the same reason that Shea was so high, is because their steals were extremely inflated. Donovan at 1.8, Shea at 2.
I actually have him higher, Skiddy. I've got him at 7. Mate, I've got him at 7, though, for you.
That's what I mean. I was the one that had him the lowest. I had him at 12.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
I thought you had him the highest, and I was like, right, yeah, gotcha.
No. So that's where I just kind of looked into it. The reasoning why I went Wemby, and I'd like to know why you went Wemby at 3G. The reason why I went Wemby at 1 was because I've said it for a long time. If Wemby gets a credible point guard that is able to unlock his offense, I'm in. I'm all in. And he got Chris Paul. So I'm happy with that. Chris Paul's going to be able to pull that team in together correctly. The other reason why I take him over Jokic, and I don't think it's a bad choice to go Wemby or Jokic. I'm happy either way. I just think that I can get the assists that I need to be able to pair with Wemby, but I can't get the blocks that I want as well as Wemby. I think I find his blocks more valuable than Jokic's assists. That's why I lean Wemby.
The only thing that I bumped up there with that is, for me, he just shows you how good he is and he can contribute across the board. Wemby is obviously elite with blocks. I just still go that robustness of when I see Jokic on the floor, just the way that he commands the game for me is without peer. Like the only person we can see that really puts pen to paper near the bloke is LeBron. Like just to be able to orchestrate a game at their own leisure, he doesn't even try. Like in that game, he was trying, but he doesn't look like he does. It's ridiculous. Yeah. Like he's trying a bit, but that's how good he is. I still have him as 1, but I'm shifting. Like I can be pushed either way. But the thing is this: to get Jokic, you're splitting hairs. How do you build off Wemby? I think is going to be a lot of fun to do for those guys getting the first pick. But because I know that he's going to be there, I like what I know in this end, and that's why I've taken him there. I think the biggest egregious one, and the person who's challenged me the most, would be Embiid. I've got him at 14 because I had a very robust, honest conversation that I wasn't taking injured guys in the first round. I was avoiding first round injured guys. This is Kawhi. This is Giannis. This was Joel Embiid. So for me, I was pushing back on those ones. Number 1 pick, though, the biggest surprise for me of this whole one was Matrix is there in chat right now to defend it. He goes SGA number 1. He had Wemby at 3 of all of us, and he's all in on SGA. As we said, we do have some guys to talk through for the night. You made some notes on a couple of blokes that want to lead us off, Malley. Jaren Jackson Jr.
Mm-hmm.
Malley, tell us about your Jaren Jackson lifestyle.
Yeah, well, he was an interesting guy, and he was a guy that I pulled up for this show. I have him at 38. G, you've got him at 26. Matrix has got him at 34, and Skiddy's got him at 33. So there's obviously a little bit of chat under the table going on between Matrix and Skiddy there. I'd say what's happened is that Skiddy knows that that's Matrix's boy, that's his my guy. And he thought, I'll just pinch him by 1. I'll just slip 1 in front of him just to really put the flex on him. Yahoo have got him at 30, so they're the most into old Jaren Jackson Jr. out of the I guess the 5 of us, out of the 4 Insight boys and Yahoo on their own. I guess I'll go into the points, the reasons why I think that 38th is a nice pick for him. So last year, he finished at 47 and a bit across a 3-site average. We understand that the role that he had last year is going to be dramatically different to what we'll have this year. He was the number 1 offensive option, where he's probably going back to being the number 3 offensive option on any given night now that Jar is back and Bane is back as well. We saw last year a big block drop off. And I think we were all pretty well in the understanding that this guy wasn't going to hold where he was the previous season. And not only that, there's been a lot of guys come up around him who are more so impressive in the blocks department. And I think that's weakened one of his higher categories down a little bit. I've said as well that he's not going to, stick in our minds, I think, and maybe this comes up right now, that he's one of those guys where we all had concerns about his injuries. And even now we're kind of season off that, I think people are starting to forget a little bit as well. But I'm pretty happy to say that 9 positions off where he was last year at 48, we'll round up, me going down to 38. I think with the team he's got back around him, I feel like a 10 position jump was about as far as I was willing to go. Gee, I'd love to hear why you've gone another 12 on top of me. Why you got him at 26?
Just see, you hit the nail on the head, mate. When I look around, I'm looking at the guys who've come into the league, Wembanyama, Chet Holmgren, who take those positions for me, who get those blocks that we really hold him to. He was, for all intents and purposes, the center last year for the Grizzlies. He had to carry a lot on his shoulder. So he had, this was a team decimated by injuries. He had to carry a lot of the load last year. Jar was out, Bane was out. But the opportunity for him to play defense, to even be more competent, was right there. I didn't see it happening. And so for me, this year, like, okay, I've got Zach Edey coming in. How many minutes is Zach going to get? What do we do that we know that Zach's going to get? 20 minutes a night. Okay. So Jaren doesn't have to be as close to the rim as a rim protector during those 20 minutes than he had to be last year. So that dings those blocks for me. So I just see that impacting him slightly. And for me, that's where I've just put him down just a little bit.
Yeah. Hey, I'm somewhere in the middle of both of you.
Right down the guts. Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. Well, I'm right in the middle of both of you. I just think, like, he was the 12th best player 2 years ago when he was averaging the 3 blocks per game. No, I don't expect him to get back to 3 blocks per game and the 12th best player. But I still feel like he has that ability to go up and down from there. Where I kind of like to take him is if I compare him with Victor Wembanyama and pick 1 or 2. Seems pretty bloody good to me to shore up the amount of blocks that you could get from those two. Now, is that going to be achievable? Probably not, because you're going to have to either take him at 25 or 50. So it's probably not in your best interest. But I don't mind the pairing if we can get around to that kind of spot. But I just think he's going to finish it around this position. I don't mind if you go try and reach with him, because he can be that kind of block specialist. In saying that, though, you do have to expect a lot out of Zach Edey to be able to be that Steven Adams replacement type when Jaren Jackson was at his peak.
And I don't think he's going to be that. I don't think he's going to be that.
Yeah. I think he's back in his preferred position. He likes to play power forward. So I'd say they're going to give Zach Edey those center minutes, not all of them, but enough that makes Jaren Jackson comfortable back in powerful position for some of the time. There will be, I guess, teething issues to begin with as they figure each other out and find out who's who in the zoo again. I'm just kind of thinking, I'm looking at the guys that I've got around him. I'm kind of thinking now, could I go a little bit lower? Like you have these conversations with people and you hear information, you start to, question where you've got him. But I do like that we've all got him in the same kind of ballpark. And I think there's going to be a lot of guys that we talk about this preseason where we really don't know where they're going to be, because the landscape has changed so much, because their team has changed, because people are coming back from injuries. So he is one of those guys with a bit of a question mark around him. We know who he is. We know what he can do. He's coming into the prime of his basketball career. I'm just excited to see the Memphis Grizzlies back as a whole again. I'm sure Matrix is too.
Oh, Matrix will be frothing at the mouth for it. Look, I know I never froths for a Pelican, but Dejounte Murray, he's a Pelican now, and much to Brano's chagrin that he's gone. This bloke here, you've got other thoughts and feels on him. This is a guy that has been all up and down over our boards. Malley, you made DeJounte notes. You have a.
I've got notes, and he's my guy. I know that he gives some people the shits, and they don't like the kind of man he is. But I just love to watch his game. I like that he's cocky. I like that he goes out there and, he's, waving his hands around and kind of like, he obviously upsets people in his locker room. Like, I think there's no two ways around that. But let's look at him through a fantasy basketball lens. So, again, last year at the end of the season, across a 3-site average, he finished at 34 and a bit. Got him 34.7th across those three sites that we've been looking through. He's going to go back to being point guard DeJounte Murray as opposed to shooting guard DeJounte Murray, or like half, a half hybrid kind of point guard shooting guard. We talked at large about him as soon as the trade went down amongst ourselves. I was surprised that that some of you boys were a little higher on him than I was, because I thought that I was a fair team DeJounte Murray. I think the points are going to take a hit. The percentages, the assists, the rebounds, especially with the fact that they don't really have a center, not a real center, are going to go up. I think his steals leadership days are behind him, but he's obviously still quite a good steals guy. He gets absolutely no blocks. So we can forget about the stocks. It's just steals for this guy. I think as well, the team negatives are going to equal out the trade positives. So I kind of feel like he is going to go from being the second guy in Atlanta, and now he's going to be potentially the third option in New Orleans. But yeah, I also think he might have an opportunity to take a few more threes now that he's over in New Orleans. But what do you boys think?
Oh boy! All right, let me get stuck into this one, Malley. Hey, I've got him highest on our boards. I've got him sitting at 31.
The mute button?
No.
I can figure that out really.
I'm all about DeJounte. He was 23rd in totals last year, so I'm really happy with that. The points that I like is that the points per game were up from when he was the 7th overall player per game in San Antonio 2 years ago. I know he had 2.2. He averaged 2 steals a game and 9.2 assists. That's fine. I think the assists can bump back up from 64 last year. He averaged still 1.4 steals, which is bloody good. So that's an absolute big plus for DeJounte. I feel like he can still be around about a 20-point per game scorer. But the main part that DeJounte's game expanded from was he went from a guy that really wouldn't shoot a lot of threes and be able to make a lot for San Antonio. He was at 1.8, which is okay, but he went up to 2.3 last year at Atlanta. And that wasn't when he was necessarily getting a catch and shoot from Trae Young. This was more or less, his numbers bumped when Trae Young was out, and he was actually taking off-screen dribble threes, pull-up threes, and off the dribble threes. So that's very, very it's very good to be able to expand his game like that, especially when he's going to a situation where he's playing with Zion, where he can then go pick and roll. He can shoot out of the pick and roll, or it's just an easy lob to Zion. That pick and roll game between Zion and DeJounte is going to be sexy. And I'm all about it. And I'm all about DeJounte this year.
You really are. You're the highest on him. Yeah.
Their starting lineup doesn't have a lot of 3-point shooting guys. Like Zion doesn't love a 3. Brandon Ingram would prefer not to take one. CJ likes one, but maybe he'll have to modify his game a little bit this year. In fact, actually, to be fair, now that he's going back to shooting guard, he might actually love a 3-point shot a little bit more. But there is still opportunities for DeJounte to grow, I think, even further in his 3-point game this year. I agree with you there, Skiddy.
Yep. I think it opens up his whole game.
Look, I'm a little bit on this one. Keontae George here. Lots of urgency to have the ball in his hands. Second-year leap coming. Late draft. Oh, absolutely, Miller.
No.
Oh, yeah, that's...
No. Because of their recent signing in Bala, Patty Mills. But no, you're 100% right, Josh. You're 100% right. Keontae George is going to be fantastic this year, I reckon.
All I'm going to say is, I love both of your takes and your perspectives. I'm happy medium. I've got DeJounte the lowest of all of us because, one, I want to see some preseason, see how it plays out. He was the 47th ranked player in nightcap -1 standard head-to-head leagues the year prior when he first came to Atlanta. So in his brand new situation, I'm thinking it's more like that guy to start off with. And that's where I can see it being the reality. We have got ball dominance. We know Point Zion is a vibe. They'd love to have him run the ball a lot through his hands as well. Brandon Ingram, still with the team. Discontentment. Oh, what am I going? I'm being traded. Just looks continually sad. Brandon Ingram face is a real thing. He just looks perpetually sad. So these guys, you've got Herb Jones, you've got Trey Murphy III. As again, there are spaces around in this team, but I want to see how it clicks and goes because they had a great year last year. CJ McCollum had a stellar year last year. We can't expect the same thing out of him this coming year. So for me, like DeJounte, I'm a little bit buyer beware until I see it. So he might be one of the guys that I do have moving up my board, but guys might be really jumping on him early as the guy who's gone in a new face in town. This guy is the status quo. Still in Cleveland. His name is Darius Garland. He is re-signed. We can copy and paste the Cleveland Cavaliers from last year. But boys, where do you reckon he go? Like this is a guy that we have on our things. Matrix has him at 46 spots higher than me. So I know that Matrix is much higher on his bounce back than me. 46 spots higher than me on our big draft board. Malley, where do you find him? Because you were more of a happy medium between all of us.
I do remember the Darius Garland name being one of the ones that was the most contentious, or as you said, kind of the biggest gap between our highest value and our lowest value. So that name still sticks out in my head. I think it's really difficult for him, obviously, to play, to play at that kind of second guard position. I think he struggled a lot with that last season. And you could see the games where he went back to being the number one guy, offensive guy on the floor there. He really started to excel again. It was just a shame that he didn't get many of those opportunities. So I think which one of you had him at 95, I think that's a little bit too far down for a guy who can get the assists that he gets. His percentages are a bit.
I have PTSD from him from last year. I'm not going to lie.
And people get that way, like you get in your head that I'm never going to make that mistake again. But I think you've got to be reasonable too about where you can forgive and forget. And I forgive and forget around the 60 mark or so. I'm not waiting as far as 95 to buy it in him. But I also don't think that if you leave him that late and you miss him, which you're going to if you're trying to pick him up at 95, I don't think he's going to be this big game changer this year. He still looks a little bit lost in the Cavaliers system. So, I don't think you're going to have massive regrets.
You can't. Whereabouts? Look, Cavs-wise, do you think he has we're in for a bit of a bounce back year? Buy beware could create some draft day value, Skiddy? For
yeah. Well, look, here's the thing about DJ, right? Still that good assist at 6.5. He had 1.3 steals, which was pretty much that was his best for his career. So I'm happy with that. But mate, he only played 57 games last year because he got poked in the eye about 700 times. He just continually kept getting hit in the eye, and then he couldn't see for half the damn season. So yeah, of course his numbers are going to be down. Like that's no shit. It's going to be hard about that. He shot.
I would have loved to have seen him with an eye patch. He would have looked like a pirate with an eye patch on this photo.
Yeah, 100%. But he averaged 3 turnovers. 3 turnovers, 44% from the field. So that's obviously down. He doesn't get blocks. So we take it away from -1. He's not as bad. Obviously, he's not going to get rebounds. But, the points were obviously down from the 21 that he had been getting previously. So he's down 3 points there. His assists were down by 2. So I feel like he's still got time to be able to make this up. And I think there's a lot of people that are overreacting to how far they're putting DJ down. I don't think it's going to be overly like a massive bounce back, but I still think we can be looking at a top 50 player here. And even if he's not a top 50 player at the end of the season, there's not many other players that can generate the amount of assists that DJ can. So
this is true.
When we're looking at a player that's reliable in a certain stat, like say that's a really good rebounder like Domantas Sabonis, a really good assist player that's like, Tyrese Halliburton or Trae Young, that's what we give him a boost up for. Reliable blocks guys like Wemby, massive points guys from that can't do anything else like Cam Thomas. Even though Cam Thomas is going to be like the 150th ranked player, we're still going to have a crack at him around 100 because where else are you going to get a player that can average 23, 24, 25 points that late in the draft? It's the same as DJ being able to add 8 assists at that point.
100%. And look, he does give you that volume.
Mm-hmm.
I think the biggest shame about the offseason was that Reggie Jackson didn't get to move over into the Cleveland Cavaliers because he would have had a whole duffel bag full of goggles, face masks, neck protection, shoelace warmers. That guy has the whole kit, and we could have sorted Darius out.
Could have the Batman symbol going up there for Reggie Jackson, but no, he's still over in Charlotte. What an absolute joke. Oh, well.
They have too many guys to say there's. Now, look, this is a guy who did shift teams last year as well. There's been more shifts around the team as well. The main one here is that Skiddy, you have this guy 25 spots higher than Malley. So as a conscientious objector to the both of you, and again, I was the guy who was in the middle ground of his value, so I see both of the merits. I want you to swing me one way or the other, boys, on this bloke, OG Anunoby. There is a 25 spot 2-round disparity in your early rankings. Skiddy, you have the floor first, sir.
Where did I take OG Anunoby? Oh, I took him at 76 is where I believe that I was looking at him for. So, yeah, this was one of the ones where I just kind of was a bit iffy. He only played 50 games last year. Per game, he was 76 overall. Obviously, with the 50 games played, he was pretty dog shit for overall totals. The steals is where I give OG a bit of a bump, though, right? As I said, you want to be able to find those players that can generate a certain type of stat, and then to be able to but OG can just do a little bit of everything okay with good steals. 1.4 last year is very respectable, and I feel like he's one of those guys that you can just rely upon for it. Now, am I sold on him at 76? Hell no, because of how well-rounded this Knicks team is, how many minutes split, people staying out for points on the night, what they're going to be able to do. I am not 100% sold on where I'm going to be taking OG. I just feel like I've probably, in all honesty now, looking back on it, I've probably taken him at a peak value. And I will probably be dropping him a little bit more just because of there's only one ball. And they have, 7 pretty bloody good players that they can just switch wherever the hell they want. Josh Hart can play power forward if they want.
I have a friend who went to. I have a friend who went to Villanova. I could just give him the number and he could join the team.
So
he didn't play basketball. He didn't go play basketball.
That's all right, though. But yeah, I mean, look, I have OG around there basically just to show, hey, this is where I'd have him for steals wise. But when we're talking about everything else that can probably happen with minutes wise and usage wise, yeah, he'll probably take a fair amount of a hit. But he's not as detrimental as other steals players. When you're looking at Alex Caruso, Matisse Thybulle, Dyson Daniels, he's better than those guys.
Malley, you have him at 101. So if you can put the numbers together between a 26 disparity, you can see where these two guys are. You have him at 101. This is a guy who's just outside top 100 value. 2 years ago, people were jonesing to get him. Why has he fallen so far from grace for you?
If I was making a real NBA team, he'd be inside my top 50, no doubt. The guy can defend well. He can shoot well. I never even heard the guy speak. Does he get interviewed? And he'll probably get less mic time. He could have the highest pitch voice and I'd be thrown out because I've never heard the guy utter a word. But I just think, again, he's just a much better real life player than he is a fantasy provider. So that pushed him down to begin with. I was then also worried for the same reason Skiddy was, that I just think he's not going to get a lot of touches. He's not going to get to do a lot of offensive work, even though that was one of the things that he was hoping to achieve in his career was, get off a few more shots and have the ball a little bit more. And as soon as Mikal Bridges got the nod, I don't see a difference between those two guys. They both kind of, a few years ago, were very similar players. I guess they branched out in different directions, and Mikal's got his chance to be a number one guy, and it didn't work. And now he's falling back in and trying to win a ring the old-fashioned way by just going with depth and being a valuable piece. But yeah, for me, he just doesn't provide enough fantasy value to be a top 100 guy. But if I found out at the end of the year he was the 75th, even if I found out that he was the 65th, I'd be like, makes sense. It's not one of those absolute ludicrous calls to have him, anywhere probably beyond 60. But the lines just get so blurred out. There's just this big clump between 60 and probably 110 where I reckon you can move a lot of the guys there and you can make a fair argument for the position you've got them in. And one little tweak, an incoming player or a few less minutes could really be like a 20 position jump, a 30 position jump, just, from small little incremental things like that.
Yep.
Yeah, 100%. And we're also just FYI, we are talking about our big draft board. This is the kit you can get. We highlighted it before to you. It's what we're focusing on, and we're working through our numbers and other ones as well. You want to make sure you get that. I am putting in the chat right now, all of it, whether you're watching us on X, YouTube, or Facebook Live. That is the link to our Patreon. Get on there, click on that one. You can go through. It's only $30 for all of that data for the big mega pack. There's like a single pack that only has like 100 guys and matrices, top 100 picks as well. That's $15. You might as well cop the extra, $15 and just get the big draft kit to work it through and find out and get all that one. Also, a big shout out to our sponsors, The Standard Squeeze. These blokes hook us up. I've got my pink cup out here on the balcony right now while the missus and the little one are inside doing bath time. I've got the pink one. It's delicious. You've got the black one, and Malley just gets to twiddle his mustache while we have a drink. Promo code IFS15, give you 15% off all of your merch. Yes, yours is blacker than mine. Yeah,
I did not say that.
That's the last time I say it
Carry
on
on.
the podcast as well. Thank you very much. This guy, we're going to give a bit of a shout to one of the segments we're doing in our team previews on Insight. It's called Ready to Rise, a guy who we think could have an improved year on it. And this one we've all noticed has gone up in our ranks. Malley, I don't know if you know this one. This is the Ready to Rise guy. Your opportunity. This bloke here. Oh boy.
Ready to rise, baby.
Look, Jaylen Green historically has not been great, but we think he's finding a bit more of his feet. He had flashes last year. This is a guy who has crept up in some of the boards. Jaylen Green, Malley has him 51 spots higher than Matrix. Now that's a Matthew man right there.
Yourself, Matrix.
Thanks, Skiddy. I know. I tried. I've got lag.
That's all right.
We've got him. Why are you so high on Jaylen this year?
Well, he had a bit of a controversial season last year, and there was a point in time where it looked like he was going to become a bench player, and there was real concern that he wasn't going to be part of the starting unit. And then I think that gave him a little bit of a kick up the arse, and then we saw some of the best basketball that the guys ever strung together. Like he had that top 20 run, which I don't think we're going to see again. Hence the reason I don't have him at 20. And I have him, a good 30, 40 spots further down than that. But he is such an offensive burst. He is a guy who I feel like is really adapting to his team well. I think he got the message. He's now like putting it all in. And I just, you look at the rest of the team. Amen isn't going to be a big offensive guy, especially at this point in his career. You've got Fred VanVleet, who's getting older every day and is a guy who can set him up well for these offensive bursts. He can hit threes. He can hit the rim. I think he's learning to pass, which is always a pretty important skill in the game of basketball. So I've heard. I never pass because I don't have the ball in my hand, so it doesn't matter. But it seems to be something that Jaylen Green's kind of figuring out. I felt like I played a lot of my big draft board pretty safe, and that's why I was happy to take a gamble on him and go, I think this could be a big season for him. So we'll wait and see. There's a lot of mysteries on that team. What's going to happen with Alperen? Is Jabari going to have this big bump? Now he's, beyond his sophomore years, he's kind of maturing now. Is Amen going to get more time on the court? Is Fred VanVleet still going to be able to do the things that he's done, or is he going to, distribute the ball more than what he has been last year? There's a lot of questions still up in the air about this team, but I'm happy to take a big swing on him, and I'll be celebrating pretty hard if it comes off.
In -1, he was still 153 last year, 140 on #basketball, 146 over on Basketball Monster. But the interesting thing here, the reason why we say that he's ready to rise, and even with that disparity, I've got him going up to around the 120 marker. Malley, you've got him top 75 on the year. Skiddy, you have him at 110. And the big disparity there is that Matrix has him at 126. So either way you look at it, this is a guy who all of us have said, okay, he's going to be better than what he was last year and better than what he was in his rookie season. And he could be putting it together in the NBA to have a run. Skiddy, and that's why you're the happy medium, I guess, between Malley and Matrix.
Yeah, well, again, the field goal percentage absolutely kills. No defensive stats really hurts as well. I like that his steals are coming up a little bit. The threes and the points are the main thing, though, G. And it's, as we said again, this is a guy at that stage of the draft where you're looking. It's like, remember last year how everyone was looking for points or after the 100 mark? We had no one besides Jordan Clarkson. That was it. Clarkson obviously had a pretty okay year until he got injured. But this year, when we look at it, it is pretty much Jaylen Green, who is a number one scoring option around that mark. That's why I bumped him up a little bit. Yeah, he could definitely be 130. But where else are you going to find a guy that can average 23 that far down in the draft? That's why we bump him up a bit.
Fair call, fair call. We're talking about guards then who can play defense, and this one is in for a big year. Kristaps Porzingis. We've just recorded the Boston Celtics pod. That's going to be coming out the day after you hear this one, so that will be probably coming out tomorrow afternoon, I reckon, live. Derek White is probably already. We're just rolling through the team previews. We're all up to Boston. Then again, It is only the second one. This is a guy last year. This is a guy who last year -1 was up and down all over the season. He was top 25 value at certain periods, much like Jaylen Green, out of position blocks that you love. Skiddy, you have this guy like right up there. I have him 21 spots higher than Matrix. I like him. I like the fact of the early season rise in him and what he's going to bring and what the Celtics need him to bring. They need him to be good. They need a team in their starting five to be excellent, especially without KP out. Back-to-back sets, we already know that Al Horford will rest down there. So there's going to be an emphasis on these guys who are tenured to put in a really good performance. Derek White, free throw excellence. The threes have come a long way. The points, the steals are there. This guy's very good, and there's a really good complement to your fantasy builds.
Gee, how many times did I have to say it last year? Derek White was the most influential player to that Boston Celtics team, and I'm still standing by it. His defense, his three-point shooting, he's every little bit that he can do, the ability to switch on to any single player that he needed to, every little piece that he did made Boston Celtics whole, and I will still stand by that until the way I go. So I still like it. 27th overall.
Not NBA Finals MVP, Jaylen Brown?
No. Oh, no. Well, Jaylen Brown was obviously, better than Tatum, but that's no hero there. But yeah, White had an unbelievable season. I had him in a couple of leagues last year. I thought he was great because he just did a little bit of everything. He still got the rebounds as well. He provides some assists, and one of the one of three players that averaged a steal and a block from the guard position. So, I really like what Derek White was able to provide. I'm still going to have him up there. Yes, I am just a little bit worried for how much the Boston Celtics have going on. But yeah, I still think he's going to be quite up there and a bloody good season for him again.
Malley, 47 for you. You think he's going to basically be the same guy that he was last year, copy and pasting?
I wanted to have him lower, but I just couldn't justify it. But then, if we were looking at the guy in a vacuum, and you said before the start of last season, we're going to talking about Derek White, and he's the man who's starting on the same lineup as Drew Holiday, as Jaylen Brown, as Jason Tatum, and as Kristaps Porzingis, you'd be like, what the hell? It's kind of the same as Grayson Allen. Like, he was the best Phoenix Sun on more than one occasion last year, and it was the same with Derek White, where you're like, how is he the number one guy on this team at this moment? And you look at some of these nights where even like a Peyton Pritchard can be the number one option, but to happen multiple times, it kind of blows your mind. But it makes me still kind of
Malley. You're talking to the guy that told people to take Derek White top 50 last year, where everyone else had him around the 100 mark. I saw
you were the first
vision of Derek White, and I took him at 55 in one draft, and everyone thought I was a dickhead. Look at me now.
No, I remember that. I remember that. You're still just as gorgeous. You're still just as gorgeous.
Don't worry about it. Derek White is going to get his. Good basketball players do good basketball things. Derek White is one of them.
Could you just say that again? I want to put that on a t-shirt. Good basketball players
are going to do good basketball things.
It's true, they do, and he got his stats.
Player in a great system on a great team.
Exactly.
Yeah. Also, just bearing in mind that when I look at these guys now, it is the Team USA team that I pretty much watched down in Melbourne a few years ago. Drew Holiday, Derek White, Jaylen Brown, Jason Tatum. I mean, yes, Australia beat them down there in Melbourne, but this was pretty much the team that we saw getting reps in together before they actually came together as well. So seeing that all roll out was, loves it. Absolutely. New t-shirt coming for you, Johnson. Get on that one. Our last guy for the night, it is a bit of a homer pick for you because I know how much you love your San Antonio Spurs. However, it is actually you. This is, again, there's a whole lot of Matthew friction going on in this podcast. You have this bloke 38 spots higher than Matrix, who I could quote you saying that you were probably his best mate. He's very sweet on you, Malley, in a message this afternoon. So tell me, why are you so out of alignment on Devin Vassell?
Well, it was a nice segue from Derek White, who I wish was back with the San Antonio Spurs. I think that team would be pretty happy to have him right now. But Devin Vassell, as the 2-3, is a very impressive young man. I think a lot of his seasons have been derailed because of little injuries, which I'm not worried about for the future, but obviously they've impacted him in the past. He, much like Wembanyama, is really going to benefit from having Chris Paul there with him this season. He's going to be another beneficiary of having a point guard, a true point guard this year in San Antonio. So that can only do good things for his points. I think he's going to get more open threes. Obviously, there's going to be more room for him to work out inside the key as well. He isn't a guy who gets a lot of defensive stats, but he can put some rebounds together. He can put some assists together. I love guys who can get, 15, 20, and then maybe 4 and 5 or 5 and 4. I like guys that can do that, and he's a guy who can do that. His percentages across all 3 shooting locations are pretty strong as well. It's one of those things too where you almost need to talk to your mates who aren't big Spurs fans or aren't big, fans of your particular team, so you can get a little bit more of a reality check. I don't know if you can convince me to drop him any lower. I'm pretty happy with him there, but I'm all ears. Let's go, boys. Tell me why I'm getting a little bit too hot.
I don't think you're getting hot. I don't think you're getting hot at all. Look, I think you're bang on the money. You're the system. Now, I did it before. I said I wouldn't do it again. I'm going to say there is one amazing thing that we do have on the draft boards. And I think this is something that people probably should take a look at when we said this is a resource that people haven't got their hands on. This is why I'm probably not as high. And it's something from a conversation that you and I had, Malley, that we ended up putting it in there. This on the big draft board is where we actually have
conversations.
There's the last 5 years of data of how many games they've played. And the bloke has averaged 60 games. And we've marked these guys in red. So he's averaged 60 games a season. Last year was the most at 68 that he had for a hot second, buoying that average up there. So that's kind of why I'm a little bit on these dudes when it comes to it. I'm a little bit like, I can't put him as high. I still like Vassell. I drafted him heavily a couple of years ago, that breakout season that didn't end up happening because it was derailed by injuries. I was right there with you. Maybe it's buyer beware. I think you're right, though, Skiddy. I think a point guard in the room like Chris Paul does help him. The guy can stroke it from out there. It's going to take his assist down, which I really liked. He does get over a steal a game. His free throw percentage, he can creep up from just over 800. I like that for him as well. So there is room for a progression. He was the 68th best player last year in 9-cat. I think he could go in. I think he could go into like the 65 or 60s, which is just a small burst up from where he was. Skiddy?
I also think too. Sorry to cut you off, Skiddy. Just one thought is that a lot of the seasons where he was injured, you also start to wondering how many of those injuries were injuries and how many of those injuries were, can you just sit off for a little bit longer because we don't need you? We're trying to tank for Wembanyama. I don't have connections with anybody on the team, so I can't speculate more than that. But I think this year will be the true telling. If he has another year where he plays under 60 games, then I guess I've just got to admit defeat and I'm out on him next year. But something about the way that the team's set up this year, and they're clearly not going for a title or anything, but they're also not throwing everything away, you know. I'll be interested to see where he lands. Go Skid.
I like it, mate. I've already said it. Chris Paul opens up what I feel like is Devin Vassell to be able to get more shots and be able to have better shots as well. I think he's a pretty good mid-range shooter as well, Devin Vassell, that he's shown he's been able to do it off the dribble mid-range. And Chris Paul's obviously fantastic like that. So I feel like he's just going to be able to continue that along and keep his progression going. I think a lot of people do underestimate how good Chris Paul is going to be for this San Antonio Spurs team. Him and Popovich, that's two amazing minds that are just going to be working off each other. I really, really like it. I like the spot for Devin Vassell. I reckon Malley's probably taking him around about where his best case scenario is. But I feel like, you know, if we get around 60 odd, you'd be absolutely stoked with it. But even if he did take that next step to be able to score 20, 21, 22 points per game, I feel like he's very much capable of that. He's also 100%, the only guy. Yeah. He's also one of the only guys that I know is locked into a starter's position because we don't know what the other positions are going to be for the Spurs, aside from Wemby, Chris Paul, Vassell, and then whatever they're going to do with the 2-3. So I'm comfortable with Vassell there.
I'm sure Harrison Barnes makes a cameo appearance and plays really good basketball and gets people excited for about a month of basketball, and then he ceases to exist in fantasy relevance for a while. It's like, oh, you have Barnes? Well, bye-bye. That's my son's come out to wave bye-bye to me, which was also funnily time because, hey, Gray, bye-bye, Dada. Oh, bye-bye, Gray. And bye-bye to you, boy. It's like, good night, big dog. Good night, boys and girls, because that is our show. We are Raph. We have it. I had the biggest crush on the prime possum girl on the Gold Coast when I was a bloody kid. It's on my God. You don't even understand, Skiddy. It was a Queensland thing.
Oh, okay, gotcha. No, I had a crush on the girl from Toasty TV. She was a great time.
Oh, she was. Oh, jeez. Catriona Roundtree. She made a cameo.
Gary Ablett's misso.
Gary Ablett has a misso. No, Johnson. I don't have anything in those sizes, but I do have access to the Patreon for one last time. If anyone wants to get on here, make sure you get our stuff. I'm putting it into all the chats before we wrap the show. You can not just buy the merch, but buy the big draft board we've been talking about tonight. It is our consensus picks. It's so much data. You can't even poke a stick at it because it's that big. And a big shout out as well to our friend Ryan at Astute Newstead. Yes. Gotta love the bloke. If you're here in Australia and if you're looking for refinancing or a home, that home loan, and if you want to make that dream home of yours reality, you've got to reach out. Skiddy, the roof over your head, you put that together, that package with Hamo, absolute legend.
Yep, he's done an absolute ripping job and made it such a simple process. And I loved being able to call him at like any time of the night just to be able to be like, hey, like, is this something that I should be worried about? No. He'd answer the question, no worries. Even if it was 11 o'clock, he's just an absolute ripper. Cannot recommend Ryan highly enough. Also, Trace in chat.
W's in the chat, W2. Love you, Malley. Love you, Skiddy. Thank you so much. Make sure you like and subscribe to all things Insight Fantasy Sport. We are ramping up our NBA coverage. We've got NFL, AFL, NRL are still on. You can get a whole bunch of gear on our website as well. We love yous. Thanks so much. Like and subscribe. We'll catch you soon, folks. See ya.